Hello people of Earth and welcome to QuickSaveTV. Today we're going to be bringing something special to you. This is going to be a podcast episode with the dear Coffeeholic, which has a channel on YouTube and you should totally check it out. I will provide both annotation and link in comment. He's making videos about Mass Effect and Mass Effect 3 specifically, and he's very good at it. Much better than I am because I never beat the bloody game. So yeah.
Hello audience. I'm Coffeeholic, or Mike if you prefer. Pleased to meet you all.
All right,
or not meet you, but talk to you at least.
Well, yeah, you're not going to be seeing much. It's first of all, because there's nothing to see at this point in time. But second, it's because it's easier for me to upload and it's easier for you to download. So it's probably going to be just a podcast episode. So you can probably minimize it and play Tetris or something.
Yeah, and just listen to us ramble about games.
Oh, yeah. So a little bit, the recent art that changed on the channel on QuickSaveTV, generally the design for Pushkin's bedtime stories, design for Learn to Play Competitively, design for what was it, the QuickSave Daily, which suddenly ended for some reason, was made by actually Mike's sister. And they're both from Denmark, awesome people. And yeah, again, as I said, go ahead, check his channel, and I will provide his sister's, how do you call it, the DeviantArt. And you should go
profile.
Oh yes, and you should go ahead and check it out. She has awesome stuff there, and she's absolutely cool in drawing. That's how I keep bombarding her. Rikke, I need some drawings.
Yeah, she doesn't mind though. It's keeping her occupied. So.
Well, it sure will keep people occupied. I mean, just think about it. So much work put into it. All right, let's just. So today we're going to discuss several key topics. You will hear in this episode. You will hear about storytelling in games, about the Elder Scrolls Online, and about Diablo III. Plus, we're going to talk a little bit about DRM in games and see where all this is going. So let's just go ahead and start with storytelling in game. And I'm gonna pass the right to say to Mike because he's obviously playing Mass Effect 3 a lot. He generally doesn't stop playing and he's skipping school because of that, and he obviously knows much better the storyline of it.
Excuse me, sir. I think you have your facts wrong.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I have played the game a whole lot, and I generally play a lot of RPGs. My gripe with them as such is the way they tell their stories most of the time, because there are console RPGs, for instance, shall we say a console exclusive like Dark Souls. It doesn't really tell a story and it focuses on gameplay, and that's fine because it tells its story through the environment, as opposed to say Mass Effect, where there's Commander Shepard, he's talking to someone and they basically stand there for hours on end just talking. You have the dialogue options. And I kind of want to talk about what's the best way to tell a story, what keeps the player engaged the most.
I see. So essentially, this is two entirely different approaches to. Okay, we had some minor technical difficulty. Can you hear me now, Mike? Talk about poor internet connection. Good God. Wow, that was fun. Absolutely fun. Talk about internet getting disconnected and me suffering a blue screen of death. That's a lot of fun. Let's just continue from here. So we just stopped we were talking about the engaging and not engaging way to tell the story. And the Mike posted very interesting ideas right there. And I would like to comment on them in that essentially that's two different ways to tell a story, and different companies, different game producers and designers, they implement different ways to do that. Like essentially the first time I actually seen engaging storytelling was in a game called Fahrenheit or Indigo Prophecy if you live in the United States. So which was about a very, very engaging development of the story and complete getting of the attention of the player and focus of the player on the game. So for instance, all the cutscenes there would engage the player in a way that he would have to press buttons on both sides, or if we talk about the gamepad, he would have to use both trigger controllers during the conversations and during the dialogues and special events, so that you would constantly play the game while getting the story out of it, as opposed to what Mass Effect usually implements, which kind of changed in Mass Effect 2, with the small events when you would be like, oh my god, press left mouse button, oh my god, press right mouse button to kill a guy or to save a guy, and except for that, it would be pretty much passive telling of the story.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the time in Mass Effect, or well, if we say in another game, Skyrim, for instance, then it's basically the other person talks and you reply, and then they talk, you reply. It's fine for telling a story, but it's not the most engaging thing you could do. I mean, when you sit down with a game with a controller in your hand, you're there to play a game.
Oh yeah, exactly. I agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, I just thought about something right now, and I have to say, just recently, I've beat Fahrenheit once again, okay? My favorite game, one of my favorite games of all times, which rivals Oblivion easily, and I've just downloaded from Good Old Games some time ago and I beat it, and I was playing it through the night, okay? And it didn't got my interest lost for just even a moment, this engaging storytelling, as opposed to games such as even Oblivion or even Skyrim, which are so fun and exciting and great. But you know what? I've once landed with my face on the keyboard and fell asleep during the night while playing Oblivion. I kid you not, that's what happened. That's how not engaging it is. That's just what it is. That's a big difference, you know. And that's the thing. What Mike's saying here is very important. I mean, essentially the storytelling in computer games should be, in a way, computer games are. You should play them. It's not that you sit there, oh my God, what a nice movie. Click, click. It's you playing it, you know, you're experiencing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big thing in Japan where they call visual novels games. Basically, you sit down and then you read and you pick a choice from time to time. And that's a great way to tell a story, but in my opinion, it's not a game. It's a story that you're getting through a different media. When I play a game, I think that it should stand up in its gameplay elements.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And the reason that Mass Effect is one of my favorite game trilogies of all times is basically because while there is a lot of dialogue, and that can be a slog to get through, especially on your second or third playthrough, and don't get me wrong, the dialogue and the writing is great. I mean, there's great character development and story pacing right there, but no, you're not playing the game, so it's easy to get distracted, at least for me.
Well, yes,
but
of
that's
course.
Where
but yeah, the Mass Effect is exceptional story, right? It's because it's exceptional. That's why you like it.
Yeah, there's the gameplay elements there that I really, really enjoy, and I've never really been the biggest fan of shooter games, but because of they mix in powers and RPG elements, it managed to keep my attention, essentially.
Mm-hmm. It's also tactical, very tactical in essence. It's not so much of a shooter as much as a tactical combat-based pseudo RPG with very great story. I mean, that's what it is. Although first Mass Effects were not really great in the gameplay wise, they were actually very simple. For me, Mass Effect 1 experience was the following. Run to the room, see the bad guys, sit on your knee, fire at them, bunch of them bullets, and after that stand up, run to the next room. Repeat the following.
Yeah,
so it
and one of the fun things about playing the first Mass Effect is if you wanted to get the Insanity trophy. The thing is, with the Insanity, they didn't improve the enemy AI. They just gave all of them immunity, which basically made your guns worthless in a shooter.
Oh, yeah.
So you basically had to bring, I think it was Liara and another person who had the correct control abilities to get them suspended in the air before they used their I have unlimited health abilities and kill them before that, which isn't fun. So Mass Effect 1 was definitely entirely about the story.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. That's essentially what it was. For me, Mass Effect 1, in all honesty, I have to admit, it was, I just pumped in the game. I think it was 2007, correct me if I'm wrong. And I just pumped the game in, install it, and I start playing it. And I feel like, holy shit. Finally, there is a game that easily rivals the movie in the way story is presented.
Yes, sadly they didn't learn about gameplay until a year or two later.
Well, you know.
Yeah, baby steps, people, baby steps.
Yeah, I know.
And if you have the opposite of Mass Effect does, which is focused heavily on story, we have games like the Soul series. For the first Demon's Souls was an PlayStation 3 exclusive, and the second one, Dark Souls, is also for the Xbox, in case anyone is interested. The story is very much bare bones. Here's the bad guy, here is minions, here's your sword, go to town.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, there is a lot of story elements, but they are easily ignored because you have to read item descriptions to get the story, or when you kill a boss and you steal their soul, hence the last word in the title, Dark Souls or Demon's Souls. then you can read the description to see what the fuss was about with this person or this demon or whatever it was.
That's not really engaging, is it? I mean,
no, it's not engaging. It's really, you're there for the environment and because the gameplay is solid. And that's what I wanted to talk about. What's the better game? The game that has great story but no gameplay, sells gameplay, basically a movie where you can shoot things. Or is it the game where the gameplay is the reason you're there and there are great environments you can explore, and it's the act of playing the game that keeps you coming back as opposed to hearing the story? What is it that you prefer?
Me personally, myself, I think both of this can rival each other easily, and they both are great in their own right. Like for instance, one of my favorite games of all times, if not the most favorite, is The Elder Scrolls 4: Oblivion. And that is because this game offered me a huge freedom of movement around the world map, of engaging with different characters, and participating in various events in the world. I just felt it was unrivaled back in the day, and it still is unrivaled to me. I mean, Skyrim is great and all, but Oblivion was there first, and it was a unique experience. You know, there was nothing like it. But at the same time, another favorite game of mine, like one of the most favorite, like it's easily in top 10, if not top 3, it's Fahrenheit, which is essentially nothing but a story, okay? The gameplay in this game is ridiculous. Essentially, usually it is just you're pressing buttons in the correct time. That's all the gameplay. Or you combine A, D, and you just press them one after another as quick as possible, which results in great pains in your left arm, but you know, that's what it is. It's just a bare bones story without anything gameplay-wise. And I mean, both of them can easily rival each other, and it depends what each developer wants to present. When essentially we have the story-driven games are artistic approach to the gaming, you know, the art of telling the story, and the gameplay-wise is the art of video gaming, right? We have to have flawless controls over the characters. We have to have beautiful engine. We have to have good, stable frame rates. It's so different, you know. I cannot stress it enough. It's like comparing a soup and a steak. It's like the same way I feel when people compare The Elder Scrolls Online and The Elder Scrolls Skyrim. I mean that's just the same feeling I get, and that's how it looks in essence. I mean, you cannot compare those two, and each of them can be great in their own right.
Yeah, there are also a third kind of game that I also want to talk about a bit. There's those games that integrate story and gameplay in one, and you basically get the best of both worlds, essentially. Of course, the most obvious example is Portal, made by Valve, where the story is told to you as you're playing through the puzzles, basically. Mm-hmm. Or another game, if you have a Steam account, or I believe it's on XBLA as well. A game called Bastion. There's a narrator who's talking as you play the game and as you explore the world, and he basically narrates depending on what it is you do. And even if you choose a different weapon loadout, he comments on that as well.
Awesome game, as simple as that. This one I tried. I never actually bought it, but I borrowed it from a good friend of mine, and God, is it good! I mean, it just feels so fluid. And what you said, I think it's also a way to present it, and but it's crazy hard, don't you think? I mean, they have to be so integrated with each other, both the story and gameplay, that they don't feel awkward. Like, for instance, in one of the best things I've ever seen in a gaming, like in storytelling, was in Bastion. And it was essentially, you had to survive for 20 rounds straight of enemies pummeling you down, not the weakest enemies, I might add, as the narrator would tell you the story by you ending each wave. And essentially, you would be like, "Oh God, I have to do that."
Yeah, exactly. And I believe, because it's been a while since I played the game, but I believe it was the story of the kid himself.
Exactly, you're correct.
Yeah, and the waves got progressively harder as he told about the harder parts of the kid's life, essentially. Because I believe, don't quote me this, but I believe it was the kid, his life went bad somewhere. And as the narrator talks about this in his awesome voiceover, basically the waves get harder and harder and harder, and even the floor begins falling apart as you're trying to survive there. It's very, very gripping.
But you feel it, you know, you feel the character. All of a sudden, the story is not empty words, because you are right now struggling to survive yourself. And you are correct, essentially. What you said is, what was the story? Let's not delve into more details so that people can buy the game and enjoy it themselves. But the thing is that you are correct, exactly. Like, He tells these events of the kid's life, and they're heartbreaking, they're disheartening, and they're difficult. You cannot imagine how he got through that. And at the same time, you are struggling to survive yourself against all these hard, and progressively more difficult enemies. And you feel like, Jesus, this kid is tough SOB.
Yeah. Also something, a fun little note about the level up system. It's not a spoiler or anything, but the level up system is tonics, basically alcohol. So when you level up, the kid starts drinking more and more because after all he's been through, he needs a freaking drink.
Oh yeah, I know. Isn't the best fix up, eh? Kids do not drink. It's simple as that. Until you reach 18 or under surveillance of your parents, do not drink. That's not necessary. Obviously, majority of you didn't have the same experience of this kid. So, all right. Let's just go ahead and continue with the next topic we have for today, which is the Elder Scrolls Online recent announcement. I believe it was less than a week ago. And today, if I'm not mistaken, Games Informer, I think a British or American magazine, I'm not really sure, posted a specific, they published a journal, a magazine edition, which is centered around the Elder Scrolls Online. So essentially we had a trailer, we had a bunch of screenshots, not too much information yet, but we do know that the guy who's going to be leading the project is essentially the same person, Matt Firer, if I'm not mistaken, or Führer, excuse me if I don't pronounce it correctly. He essentially was working on Dark Age of Camelot in the past, which was a revolutionary PvP game in which we would have three sides pummeling at each other and trying to fight for dominance.
Yeah, I have personally, this is all opinion, so you don't have to take anything I say as truth or anything. But I don't like this idea. To me, playing the Elder Scrolls game is finding a playstyle that you like, be it an illusionist thief, being a sword and shield user, sword and magic, whatever it is that you like, and then you just go to town with that, even with some of the quote-unquote overpowered abilities. You have fun with them. Because this is an online game, it has to be balanced. So there has to be the warrior, rogue, mage kind of setup. At least I think that's what he's supposed to do. So that will kind of take away from the freedom of playing an Elder Scrolls game, in my opinion.
I know what you're saying, and I feel you there, because you actually, right now, you might not know that, but you represent a gigantic part of the Elder Scrolls fan base, all right? That's what's been going on in discussion lately, and that's what essentially they say. They say that we do not want the Elder Scrolls multiplayer. We want it to be single player. And you are correct in that, but the thing is that don't make a mistake and start comparing the Elder Scrolls Skyrim or Oblivion, which was essentially what you said, this freedom and unbelieving, you know, the freedom that actually makes you drunk with it, and you cannot get enough of it, and you can do whatever you want, and no one's going to tell you, oh, you know what? Mike, you're so bad. You cannot kill anyone in PvP. No one's going to tell you that, because essentially, as long as you're stubborn and good, you can do anything you want, and there's no problem with it. Every build is viable and it will work. Whereas in more RPGs, exactly what you're saying, exactly the balance issues, they have to be addressed, especially in PvP-oriented MMORPG. If this MMORPG wants to ever, you know, get enough supporters and actually subscribers to get, you know, to get any income from that, it has to be balanced, as simple as that. But it's not two same games. It's like entirely two different things. And the group of people that works, the development company that works on it, is called ZeniMax Online, which is not connected to Bethesda in any way. So it's essentially two different games in the same lore universe.
Yeah, but I think most people make the same mistake as I do by comparing this game to what they are familiar with, because it says the Elder Scrolls games, people will immediately compare it to the Elder Scrolls franchise, while people who play other MMORPGs, they maybe will compare them to other MMORPGs out there, like World of Warcraft or the Old Republic. Because they are familiar with that, and they will be biased towards or against what they know, and they fear what's coming.
I know what you're saying. I think yeah, it's a big concern lately, and especially because we see so many great ideas in MMO games, MMO actions and RPGs that just they come out, They exist for a couple of months and they just disappear. They just disappear as if they never existed. And it's just sad. It's cruel to see. And people that start supporting them and they're like, oh my God, a new game. Yay, that's so awesome. And like 2 months later, it's like, it's closed. And you feel like, holy shit. How did that happen?
Yeah, that reminds me of what happened to DC Universe Online, which was that memoir book that came out with a focus on consoles. It was popular for a while, but I've seen a certain lack of support for it by now. It's only been out for a little more than a year. It came out January last year. So
I remember I had similar experience with the Hellgate London, which is not an RPG. I'm not trying to confuse anyone. It was an RPG, action RPG made by... If only I would remember. But I do remember that some of the people who were in this company were from the old team that worked on Diablo. And essentially, they made a game in which you could pay $5 a month in order to play online with other players and get all the special benefits. I don't remember what it was. But the thing is that I bought the game. I bought the copy of the game from the store, and it was like, oh yeah, I finally got the Hellgate London. I was dreaming of buying it, you know. And a year later, after the game released, I'm buying it. I'm coming home, installing the game, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play online. And I log in, right? I'm trying to play online, and it says the servers are closed. Like, it doesn't connect anywhere. Okay, and I'm checking the interwebs for the information. It says that the game was closed officially yesterday. And I felt like someone just dropped a bomb on my head. Right?
Oh, that's kind of sad. That reminds me, actually, if I may talk about the Soul series again. They have an online component where essentially you can leave messages for other people to say, "Oh, there's a trap up ahead," or "There's a boss up ahead," or a hint says, "Don't attack this guy. He's good." Essentially, the first Souls game, they are taking off the servers in 20 days or so because it's been out for a long time and they want to focus on Dark Souls instead. So the first server is going down, so there won't be any PvP or help to find there if you ever buy it.
That's very crappy, but essentially, at the end of the day, although we always feel different about it, we gamers, I mean, if I may represent the gaming community, we feel about games as the way to spend our time, and in some cases we feel that it's an art, okay? It's object of passion, object of having fun, and we don't feel about it as business, but that is what it is. I mean, when the company is not able to take care of a specific product or feels that their chances would be better somewhere else, that's just what happens. And they close their products because they cannot support them financially. Because you know that, right? I mean, you know that better than I do, that any kinds of entrepreneurial things, even computer games, take a lot of money. That's why we have formation of Kickstarter. That's why we have pre-ordering games. Why pre-order games? Because this money sent to pre-order, you know, they will allow the publisher or the development team to estimate how many people actually want to buy the game right now. And that's just what it is. At the end of the day, that's selling games, and that's business, just like any other, except for that it's essentially business that deals with art.
Yeah, exactly. And even E3, even if you're for or against E3 for whatever reason you may have, it's essentially the game developers. They're there to present their game to see if they can sell as many copies as possible, because that will give them money in their pocket to finish their current project and work on the next one. Because essentially each game they publish has to support both games. The game itself, it has to cover the funds for that, and the next game in the line.
Exactly.
Exactly. So even if you may say, oh, it's sad that the online component has been taken down or that they can't support the service anymore, but really, wouldn't you rather have that they can build a new, better game, even prettier or with better gameplay, everything's revamped, there's better balancing, the classes are more fun to play, or whatever they may be, the guns feel better, whatever? Or do we want them to stick to the old game and try to keep those servers alive as long as possible, even if it means the end of the company? I mean, of course, I'd rather want the game.
I see what you're saying. Well, it really depends, and the answer to this may lie in the amount of time and effort one specific player spent on this game. So, for instance, what happened with the release of the Old Republic, the Star Wars The Old Republic, the EA, they closed down Star Wars Galaxies. I think that was the name of the game. It was existent for a decade before that, if I'm not mistaken, and they closed the servers, and they were like insinuating, Star Wars people, this is time you bought a new game. Star Wars The Old Republic, you know. They didn't say it openly, but they just closed the servers for Star Wars Galaxies. And people who love Star Wars and played this MMO for so long, they just migrated to Star Wars The Old Republic. It's like violent deportation of players from one game to another. But, you know, but again, no one got them any satisfaction for that. I mean, no one paid them anything for that, any compensation or etc. But when you close the servers for an MMO, unlike what we had in the past with single-player games, when you close the server for MMO, what's going to happen is that you will lose all your accumulated progress until that point forever. There is no way to return these things. All the items and things you were trying to obtain so hard, they are lost. You will never see them again. Okay? And I mean, you can say that you get a better game and then you're like, but boy, I spent like 3 years on these things and I geared up 3 of my characters and they're all max level and they have the base underground of I don't know what and I have my own planets and now it's all gone. Then you feel like, people, are you insane? Are you out of your goddamn mind? What do you insinuate? I have to buy another game just so you can make money?
Well, sadly, that is the business plan.
All right, yeah.
So, yeah, especially with EA, they are not to bash anyone, but they are really in it for the money. That's what they always have been, or they haven't always been. They've been a good company, but they've gone in the wrong direction. For instance, Dragon Age Origins came out and it absolutely exploded. So EA said, well, you're going to work on a second game, right? BioWare said, yeah, sure, of course, we want to continue the story. EA said, okay, so 18 months? So they had to develop an entire game on a new engine in 18 months, and the game commercially it was sort of a success. It made money, it sold a lot of copies, and even on Metacritic it got a fairly decent score.
Not if you ask players.
Not if you ask players or fans of the original.
Right.
It didn't hold up to most people. Mainly because they only had so long to work on it, so they couldn't have time. They had to copy and paste a lot of the environments because, well, essentially, you look at the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. They've had years to work on that to finish all the details, make all the dungeons unique, create all of the abilities, focus a lot of the gameplay mechanics. They had time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is someone didn't come by and say, hey, 18 months, comes up, new game, come on, new game.
Yeah, I sound on your ass. We have money to make.
Yeah, they even something about you know, there's DLC. They want to focus on DLC, and one of their marketing guys accidentally insinuated that he wanted people to pay to reload their gun at times. Because you could wait until you could reload your gun. Or for a small microtransaction, you could reload your gun fast and get back into the gameplay faster.
Don't talk to me about guns and bullets and paying for them real money. Some months ago, I played this abomination, a disgrace to humankind called JKL Alliance Online. And what developers essentially claimed, they said, oh, you know what, guys, we will resurrect this old game. Essentially, for any of you who doesn't know, JKL Alliance is this mother of all tactical games. One of the very first militaristic tactical games, which goes hand in hand with UFO. UFO is about killing aliens, and JKL Alliance is about making a revolution in a very small country, which is suppressed by dictatorship. That's in short, okay? And the thing is that we're gonna make the game that will play and look exactly like the game from the past, right? The game from, what was the age? 1996, 1999, were both games, JKL Alliance and JKL Alliance 2. But the thing is that it is essentially a goddamn Facebook game in which you have to buy essentially everything. In order to hire a mercenary permanently, you have to buy it with real money, with gold in game, right? In order to get better ammunition, you have to pay money. Real money again. In order to get more fuel, which is spent on doing mission, you have to pay real money. In order to win in PvP, essentially, because there is PvP and rating system in this game, you pay real money. Because if you don't have this ammunition, you will suck a lot. and you will get killed and obliterated at all times. That's just how it is. And I just think it's ridiculous how people try to implement this mechanics of free-to-play games into competitive gaming. And I think they will fail. And they do freaking deserve to fail. Because when you compete, you don't want to spend money to compete. You just compete yourself.
Yeah, but that's kind of the thing, because the company has to make money, and I see where they're going with microtransactions, and because, well, essentially there are games like World of Warcraft, you know, that you pay a monthly fee and you have access to everything. Essentially. Then there's other games that, like O-Game or another MMORPG called Shire. Basically, it's free to play, but if you bribe your way to victory, you will get on the top of the list. you know, it's just a suggestion, but there's money.
but free to play doesn't have to be bad. You know what you're saying is right. It's essentially a way to get additional money, and it's correct. I mean, for many of these companies which publish these free games, they have to eat. They have to pay for servers, they have to pay for maintenance, and they have to update the game. All of this takes money, and no one says that they shouldn't have them. But the thing is that when you offer people things in a game that states itself as free to play, and you demand money for it in order so that people can win, essentially you destroy the competitive part of the game, and you will ruin your game eventually, you know. Yeah. If you provide something like vanity objects, like, you know, buy some, like, spend €2 or spend $2, like, and get a hat which looks awesome, and you will eventually look awesome. You essentially will look awesome. Then it's fine by me. Good thing. But if you have to buy the best things with real money in order to win in PvP, no thanks.
Yeah, well, this is a game that most people already know about. Some people have played it. Most people dislike it by now. RuneScape. I think most of you people who are a bit older than I am, or as old as I am, will nod and smile at this, because there are free servers, and there's a good chunk of the game that's entirely free. There's a PvP that is free to play. And then there are the member server. Basically, you have a chunk of abilities, a chunk of weapons. All of it is members only, and there's members only PvP. So essentially, there's the free-to-play version, there is the members version. So they essentially have the best of both worlds. They have the free, you know, here's you don't want to pay for the game? Fine. Here's the free version. Here's what you have to play with. And then you can play with others who don't want to pay either.
The shitty experience.
Yeah, we're not paying, haha. And while all of those who have more money to go around than they could absolutely care about, so they just throw it at everything. They can sit in the member section with their smug superiority.
but it's, well, you know, it's in a way it's kind of brutal dissection and discrimination over who pays and who doesn't. But what the hell? At least like that, I mean, at least you don't have to compete against a person who blew $100 to get all the best guns and mercenaries in the game, and you just gonna suck because there's no way for you to compete. At least you're gonna compete with those cheapskates such as yourself, which is great. It's fine. I would personally not pay for it just because of the way I treat it. So yeah, I just think it's appropriate. More appropriate than when you're forced to pay in order to win anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a game like World of Warcraft, then you basically say, I want to pay for this game. It's an experience I want to pay for. But then there's the free games, and with the microtransaction where you bribe your way to victory. So then there's no longer competitive balance. Then it's them basically pushing you down a dark alley and say, you want money or you want to die in this game. Basically, you pay or you go away, essentially. So they set up the sign that it's free. No, not really. You're going to pay for it, just like you would have to pay for World of Warcraft if you want to compete, that is. You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's just sad. It's like people do things only to get money, and that's just really sad.
What, companies want money now?
Well, yeah, I mean, what the hell? I mean, who wants money anyway? We're all gonna end up in heaven, so let's just be good people. Okay.
Yeah.
Let us move on now to the third topic of today's discussion, which is Diablo III controversy, which is essentially about what we wanted to talk about is how did they push the game to the release, essentially. I am a big fan of Diablo, right? A big fan of Diablo 1 specifically. And I am anticipating for this game just like many others of you. But what's interesting is that they had so many interesting ideas in the game, such as finishing moves from bosses, such as additional enchantments methods, such as the mystic, which got removed, such as a lot more things which got removed. And it feels like sometimes that they removed them just to get the game faster out there.
Yeah, well, that is the thing with most game. You have the concept art, and you have all of your game concept, and because you have that release date that you're pushing to reach, then you have to cut out some of the meat, essentially. That happens with every game that when it is per product. So you have to at least you have to cut it some slack. But if it's something important that's cut, I don't personally know a whole lot about this, so I don't really know what was cut. So. What is it actually that's been cut from the game?
Not all of the things are, yeah, as you're saying, not all of the things are essential to the gaming experience, and most of them we can actually live without them. But the fact itself, one of the very important things that was removed is the Mystic, which is one of the craftspeople in the game, which allowed you in the past to enchant your weaponry, okay, and your armor to get you additional benefits. When in case of weaponry, we would have enchantments such as, classical fire, frost, shock, poison, whatever else it is, and for armor you would have additional attributes enchantments and abilities enchantments. That's how it worked. Now, because they felt that Mystic doesn't essentially contribute to the customization in the game, they removed her, I should say. And this is kind of sad. I mean, I can see what inspired them to do that, but the thing is that, it just feels like, oh my god, you just removed a big part of the game.
Yeah, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here, just, to get a discussion going. Basically, because this is my viewpoint as well. Maybe they thought of of balancing the game, basically. You have this boss, you have these enemies, you have these sections of combat, and you've tinkered with them for hours on end, so it's this difficult for a mage, it's this difficult for a warrior, and it's this difficult for a rogue. If you throw in enchantments, and basically maybe there's the enchantment of frost, if you go by Elder Scrolls mechanics, then frost would slow down enemy warriors and maybe make them slower so they couldn't get to you. Or stamina, electricity, which cut enemy mages in half and basically made them no problem. If you had those enchantments, then you would have to revamp all of the enemy encounters to make sure that all of the enchantments that you have, they are balanced to what enemies you face. And that's a huge act of balancing. So if they cut out the game, then they will have months of playtesting that they can go without, which is a lot of money spent playtesting with programmers sitting there waiting and just costing money for the company,
All right. That's a good point. I mean, well, what happened in World of Warcraft in some specific moments is enchantment, as such, would not offer so much customizability as one would want. Instead, it would essentially bring this additional step in creating and building of your character, which would have to be taken to get to the best possible position. But the thing is that in many circumstances, people would select only specific enchantments over the others. So some of these enchantments, as you're saying, that had balance issues, and they were stronger than the others, and others would not be able to compete with them. And because of that, it just feels that this enchantment part and this mumbo jumbo not only doesn't feel important and necessary, but it also forces players and remove this customization. It's like at some specific point, I remember I would talk like, what should I put on my daggers as a rogue, right? I had what did I have? I think I had two swords. And I said, what should I put on my swords as a rogue, right? And they were like, oh, of course it's this enchantment. What are you, stupid? There's nothing else that competes with it. But I'm like, but there's like 7 enchantments. What are you talking about? Surely one of them would be like good decision. And they're like, no, all of them are shit. Only this one is viable. So don't even think about it.
Well, it basically becomes an act of problem solving, There's this enchantment and this enchantment. If there's one that is superior to the other, be it as it may, the other enchantment may be perfectly viable and fun to use. It's just not as effective as the other one. I mean, if you could have the sword of, oh my god, it kills bosses in one hit, or the sword that kills smokes in one hit, you will, of course, want the other enchantment. Essentially, if you have a debuff that makes big bosses that would normally be the hardest part of the game much easier, because you can essentially debuff them so they take more damage, or you have something that deals more damage but doesn't hinder the opponent in any way, then of course the something that debuffs would be best, because bosses are the hardest part of the game, while the additional damage would be good at taking care of the trash. Then people would of course be biased towards the best enchantment.
Oh yeah, and then essentially the whole idea with enchantments in Diablo 3 was to bring additional customizability in the game. And then if we suddenly see that not all of the enchantments are used, then what the hell was the point? I mean, duh. I mean, since they just become an additional step in character development, where is the customization? There is none. As simple as that.
Yeah, so in my opinion, of course, and you may be disagree with this, it's better to scrap enchantment and instead focus on making the rogue as fun as possible, making the warrior as fun as possible, and make the mage as fun as possible, and most importantly, as challenging as possible. I mean, Skyrim is again an excellent example. You have the mage, it has the dual cast in destruction with impact, essentially stun locking anything to death, at least until you run out of mana.
Oh yeah.
Throw in enchantment. Spells cost no mana.
Oh yeah, but this is ridiculous disbalance. That's what it is. I mean, you cannot seriously consider that as a fair play.
Yeah, and then there's the warrior. He's just sitting in the corner crying because the thief is invisible and can one hit kill anything. The mage is stun locking anything. The warrior is just there. I want to participate.
That's how I felt when I was playing as a warrior. It was just a ridiculous experience. I was like, goddamn mages. Goddamn archers, goddamn dragons. Like, what can I kill in the end? Like, nothing.
It's especially sad for me because I've never been a big fan of mages because I like to wear big heavy armor, have a big burly beard if possible, and just a big sword and just go to town. And then I come to Skyrim and I'm like, oh god, oh god, oh god.
You do have it for beards, don't you? I mean, when I will see your girlfriend at any point in time, I am sure she will have a Nordic great beard. I'm confident that's going to be the case.
We'll just be a girl. Men have bigger beards. Haha. Oh well. I think I just creeped out the audience, didn't I?
Well, anyway, okay, yeah. And some other things that were also removed are the death animations from bosses in Diablo 3. And also, what else did they remove? I think they removed something else very important. Oh, they wanted to experiment on the rune system in the game, which will essentially allow you to modify your skills and add them additional effects. But they also kind of scrapped it, and now you will unlock it just through leveling. I mean, I guess they do have a good reason to do these things, but it's kind of sad that they removed the killing moves. But I remember there was an accident in Wrath of the Lich King, the Elder Scrolls, excuse me, the World of Warcraft expansion. When they were trying to release it in China, there were an issue with the way undead looked. Specifically the chunks of meat hanging and the bare bones open. And what Chinese said to that, they said, you will not release this game here like this because it's absolutely inappropriate and you have to change it. And so they started redrawing all of these things just to release the game in China. I mean, just imagine the looks on their faces.
Yeah, that sounds like something they would do in Australia, basically because they are kind of fussy with what games they want to release. It can't be too gory. Even Left 4 Dead was toned down heavily just so they could release it.
I see.
Essentially a no-gore version of Left 4 Dead where you shoot zombies. Kind of missing the point there, dude.
I mean, many people will disagree with me, I'm sure of that. And that is probably why we have the ESRB rating board and the PEGI rating board. PEGI is in Europe and ESRB is in the United States. I don't know what others use. I think Australian also have their own. But the thing is that what I think personally is that these rating systems are essentially a waste of time and money and effort. My opinion, all right? My opinion. I think all the game developers and games should, of course, state what content is present in the game. But it is up to parents to decide, not just blindly follow, oh, this is a 17-plus game. Sure, no children will ever play it. I mean, it's like a ridiculous excuse to censor something. And essentially, games have to. I mean, that's essentially what happened in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Remember? I mean, what happened? They released the game, everyone's happy, 12 plus. 3 months down the way, what happens is that there's a nude mod, which makes all the characters, both men and women, naked, absolutely naked in all the detail. And what happens is that ESRB board and the PEGI board go crazy. They're like, you liars! Your game can only be like 18 plus. This is ridiculous. And I mean, they never even expected that it would happen. I mean, the creators, the Bethesda, they never expected it would happen. They're like, holy crap, people, what are you doing? And to the moment when they started work on Fallout 3 and the Fallout New Vegas and then the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, what happened is that they stopped this. They stopped aiming for 12 plus rating because they knew that people will release nude mods anyway. And what they did instead, they made it a bloody, gory experience, but it was brutally realistic. I mean, what do you freaking expect? I mean, it's the end of the world. It's the post-apocalyptic. It's a post-apocalyptic game. That's what it is. I mean, it cannot be flowers and ponies pooping with rainbow. That's not what it is, and it will break the experience for the player, whether you want it or not. And plus, some games, they are rated the same rating, but I don't understand how they are. How can they get the same rating? Like, for instance, let me give you an example. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 versus Sniper Elite V2. Well, both of them, I think, have 17 plus rating, or whatever, 18 plus. Let's put it simple, mature. But now think of that. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 has no dismemberment scenes, not at all. There's no dismembering happening. There is some blood from shooting the enemies. There's no details. It doesn't look realistic. The guns don't even sound realistic. That's my opinion. I mean, they just don't. They sound good, but not necessarily realistic. The bodies don't react realistically. The knifing does not look realistic. It's just not realistic experience. It's 18 plus. Then we go to Sniper Elite V2. In Sniper Elite V2, it's an action game. For any of you who doesn't know, I made a video, early look, taking a look at it, and it has these fatalities. In the action game, yeah, you heard it right. And what you essentially do is whenever you land a successful shot at the enemy with a sniper rifle, what happens is the time slows down and you see in great detail how the bullet pierces vital parts of enemy body, okay? In great detail, okay? And it looks disgusting at times. But it also has 18 plus. And then comes the question, how the hell do you put the same rating on an innocent, I would say Modern Warfare 3 compared to this looks innocent, okay? How do you put the same rating and you claim that they are both inappropriate? I'd say Modern Warfare 3 is appropriate for children 14 plus, no problem. Sniper Elite V2, no. No, it's 18 plus as it deserves it, okay? It's a great game, it deserves 18 plus. Modern Warfare 3? You must be kidding me.
Yeah, well, it's how the game presents itself, basically, and that's again, it comes back to story on environment, how the experience is itself. Modern Warfare is a very competitive game. It's basically about player versus player mostly, because the single player campaign, you're not there for the single player campaign. Don't kid me.
Oh, certainly not.
I won't believe it, no matter what you say. Even if the single player campaign has sections like no Russian. Which are there to, it's very gripping and it can be intense because, it's something that happens around the world and it's a very great story and that can be traumatizing, worth an M rating or an R rating in that case. But the multiplayer aspect of the game, yeah, that's just player versus player. It's, it's not really worth an R rating.
And then again, saying continue, please continue.
Yeah, on the other hand, there are games like Amnesia: The Dark Descent or Sniper Elite or whatever the game is, as long as it takes itself seriously. Because Amnesia, it's there to be scary and it sets everything up so that it's as scary as possible. Hell, for the first hours of the game, you don't even see a monster and you're scared to death. At least if the... and then the Sniper Elite, where basically you're a sniper, you are a killer, you kill, there's no glory in it. Of course you pull off the great shot, but still you're there because the enemy has to go down,
But I mean, the same thing you could argue then we should also rate you talked about several things. Let's just take this one at a time. So multiplayer experience. Yeah, exactly. You play with other people. And some people say that since you play with other people and there's no control what these people are, it has to be 18 plus because the online experience may vary, they say, right? You might play with other kids, such as yourself, or you might play with some suspicious guys, such as myself or Mike over here. Or you might play with someone outright psychically not normal, an outrageously ridiculous person, which should belongs to a hospital, but for some reason plays the game, all right? That also can happen. But the thing is that then why don't we rate the interaction of people with each other? So for instance, if you go to the kindergarten, oh yes, this is 3 plus. But if you go to school, oh my God, vulgar lexicon. I mean, they swear at each other. Some of them do drugs. Oh my God, alcohol. What does my child do there? Oh, so what is that? I mean...
Yeah, it's basically handholding is what it is. It's lack of exposure. I mean, the people, at least I think this is the case why there's so much controversy about this. In America, parents are afraid of showing their kids stuff. I mean, for instance, here in Denmark and in Europe, for the most part, there is no issue about nudity. We don't give a damn about it. I mean, even in magazines, they can have bare breasts in the front without causing a huge uproar because, well, it's breasts. That's about it. That's the extent of it. Oh, breast. Moving on. Going on with my day. If that happened in America, I'm sure some mom would call in and say that they've violated their child's childhood and blah 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 blah. All of this hand-holding is making sure that the child is less exposed to all of these elements that exist, and it basically makes them less prepared for their own life, in my opinion. You know, they could play a game, and a game should be able to tackle heavy issues, like, for instance, Modern Warfare, no Russian. You know, heavy issues. It should be able to present it without causing that uproar. But because of the mature rating and because of all of the financial disasters that could happen if they do something like that, and the game has to be pulled, you know, they won't take the risks. So the rating is essentially there to I believe it's there to hold the developers back from expressing what they truly want. It's kind of limiting.
At the end of the day, I just feel myself that it's the responsibility of a parent, not the rating board, to whether or not to allow your child to play something. And in the future, as a parent, if my child will want to play any specific game, I will not take for granted the rating placed by I'm not going to insult them, by a rating board. Okay, it's their opinion. I understand it's their work. Okay, they're doing something. I understand for many people it would be hard to realize what the game might present and what heavy issues might be presented in the game and tackled, essentially. But the thing is that I would personally allow my child to play Modern Warfare 3 as long as I explain to my child what this thing means and why some of these things can or cannot happen. Okay, and I think it's a part of experiencing the world. It's just as so what the hell? Then you should put the ratings on the box for history. I mean, when you read that, for instance, what to read? For instance, the Spartans battling the what was it, Ottoman Empire, or in the past, what was it, something else? Anyway, when they were battling there, and there were like 300 Spartans, and they killed like several thousands of those mercenary armies. And if a kid has strong imagination, what does he imagine? They surely didn't, I don't know, talk them to death. They surely didn't just, pat them and they died. They killed them, all right? As simple as that. That's history, okay? And when you study history in school, all right? And what do you put rating on a book then? Don't study history. It's too brutal. Let's better live in our pink today where everything is perfect and we have these cute little doggies. And, I mean, I just don't think it's the way to...
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, the rating doesn't even tell how emotionally gripping or how much a game can provoke a reaction from you. I mean, I have played multiplayer shooter games before, and I do not care if my character dies. On the other hand, I've played, let's take an example. If you have a PlayStation 2, or if you have a PlayStation 3 now, you can buy the Slide Trilogy. At the end of the second game, one of your friends, spoiler alert, gets hurt, and essentially it's very gripping because you've got to know him over the course of 2 games at that point, and then he gets hurt, seriously. And you're just sitting there like, no. But that's a very emotionally gripping experience, and it affected me much more as a kid than playing Grand Theft Auto did.
I know what you're saying. I agree with you.
Another game, Shadow of the Colossus. Your girlfriend is dead. You want to revive her, blah, 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 pact with the devil. Not important. The important part is there's these colossi around the world. You have to take them down for the bad guy to revive your girlfriend. You essentially evade the Colossus home. The first one, it just kind of stares at you like, what's that thing doing there? Then you slowly climb it, and as soon as it dies, sad music starts playing. And you feel like the biggest asshole that ever lived because you took down an animal that was just minding its own business. And the sad score really makes you feel like the bad guy, and you keep persisting. And even some of the bigger ones, like this, at one point there's a flying colossi. It doesn't attack you. It's just there and it's trying to avoid you. And when that one dies, it slowly falls out of the sky and then it just crashes. You just sit there like...
Absolutely.
Yeah, as opposed to that, oh yeah, kill streak online, woohoo! You don't give a crap.
Oh my god, how brutal! My child should not play that.
personally, I would rather have my child play an online game and know it's a game, rather than have them play like Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus could be very emotionally traumatizing because of the sad music and the way the game presents the death of this mighty beast. I don't know if you could call it a beast even, but the way the game presents it makes it sad, and you feel guilty about it. You know, that to me, that's. And that game has a rating of 12.
So essentially, we see that. I think we understand it in the same fashion. We essentially talk about. We bring different examples. We talk about with the same thing. The thing we're talking about is perceived experience. Okay, not what experience is in essence decided by the rating board, but what it is perceived and how it is perceived. For some children,
a child. A child cannot perceive what happens in Grand Theft Auto. I mean, I was a kid and I played San Andreas, and I didn't understand anything that happened in the story, even if I spoke English, because that was adult issues. I didn't know. I was just like, when they talked about drugs, I thought of something like candy or some of the sort. Like, oh, right, fair enough. Moving on.
But when you have a character that you got attached to die in front of you, right? You feel heartbroken, whether you want it or not. And it impacts you much harder than just, oh, there are drugs. So, gee, I knew that. I mean, no big deal.
Exactly.
So, all right, let's just move ahead to the last but not least topic, the DRM protection in the digital and box distribution. Specifically, would like to talk about the distribution services such as Steam and such as Origin from EA, as opposed to services such as Good Old Games on GOG.com, essentially. How do they work out, and what happens with the box games today? What is your opinion on the topic, Mike?
It annoys the ever-loving shite out of me, excuse the swear word. I mean, I have games like Batman Arkham Asylum, I have my Mass Effect, I have a ton of games. I want to play them. Another one, From Dust, and I bought that one recently, actually, and then I had to register an account with Ubisoft just to play the game, because they wanted to scan my computer to see if I bought it legally or not. Essentially, they install games for Windows Live, they install a Ubisoft service, they install Origin or whatever it is they want to install, and they essentially scan your drive and want this registration code, and just to keep tabs on you, like, did you buy this game? I know you have the box and everything, but did you buy this game? You know, it's kind of invading my privacy.
It's like none of their business, essentially. These practices make a bad name for a company. I mean, whether you pirated or not pirated the game, that's just what it is. No one gave you a goddamn right to invade anybody else's privacy. And when you provide a license agreement, end user license agreement, in which you write that we will basically scan for your privacy, and if you want to play the game, you have to push accept. And you're like, but what can we discuss? No. But I want different conditions. No, just press accept or you're not playing the game. Which I might add, you bought.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why they are scared about people pirating their games so they won't earn a profit. But really, I mean, for instance, let's just say that I pirated a game. Whatever. I pirated Mass Effect 3. Let's just play with the thought. I found a cracked version that, for some odd reason, bypassed Origin, and I played through the game and I enjoyed the experience. Why wouldn't I support the company? I mean, the company made a game that I thoroughly enjoyed. Why not buy it? Why not support their next game in the series or the next game they develop? I mean, that's just my opinion, and maybe I'm different from most people, but if I play a game that I generally enjoy, I believe the company deserves
No, you're not. No, you're not different. I think many people are like this. And of course, why not support someone who provided with you a great experience, And if you see that, if you pay attention to who actually raises the issue of DRM, how bad the people are and they pirate everything, oh God, how bad they are. These people are commonly representing the companies that in the past have had an issue with player base because their games were not of the highest quality. And I think that points us towards something. And this specifically is, for me, I'm going to tell you a story, all right? As a kid, my first game was pirated, okay? And I'm going to tell you why. Because I come from a small Russian city, not so small, but, in Russia, we didn't have licensed copies of games. Only things we could afford back then were pirated copies, with printed labels and everything in CD box and etc. And I would buy these games. I would buy them from other people who cracked them, and I would think that they are legal. That's what they are. I didn't know better. Okay, and later on, when we finally had this boom in licensed product, real copies, all translated to Russian, everything, some even original. How much I loved those. I just wildly started buying them, okay? And I started buying them wildly all the time. I stopped buying cracked copies altogether because I found out what it is, okay? And that's just what it is. And in many countries in the world, don't just be limited to thinking that things are like they are in your country. In many countries in the world, it's very difficult to obtain a licensed copy. And sometimes you have to order it from shit knows where. And excuse me, it costs more than you do per 2 weeks. And how are you supposed to live after that, okay? You have bills to pay. Well, I know that, actually. I feel the same way because I'm paying bills, okay? I'm paying electricity bills, I'm paying water bills, I'm paying for my house here, for my apartment, for my room essentially, right? And I'm paying for my food. I know what I'm talking about. And for many people who have in the same position or their parents don't have enough money, how are they supposed to buy these games, okay? And when you provide the bad quality product and you demand the same money as somebody like, for instance, if we compare a very bad game which lasts for 4 hours and a great game such as Mass Effect which can last for 25 hours, okay? Or even more than this, okay? Then I think it is obvious what would you like to buy, and how can you even dare to demand the same amount of money for that game and at the end get surprised why does it get cracked and pirated?
Yeah, exactly. Even that, with the Mass Effect 3, EA is trying to work around selling selling used copies and all that. Basically, when you buy the game from the retailer, you get an online pass, and basically you can play the online part of the game, which sadly is essential to get the perfect ending of the game. It's essential to play the multiplayer. So if you buy it used, then you have to buy an online pass, even though you paid for the game.
I've heard there was some problem. Excuse me to interrupt you again. There was a program or a soft or a mod that allowed you to have the same benefits without participating in online. That's what I've heard, at least from a friend of mine who plays a lot of Mass Effect.
Yeah, it's a downloadable thing you can get, gifts saved editor. It's basically you have this war assets value, and to get the perfect ending you need that of have an effective value of 5,000 basically, and only if you take certain Paragon and certain Renegade choices throughout all 3 games, including every single piece of DLC, do you get the perfect ending. That essentially removes player choice. There is one setup that works, everything else, nope, silch. So essentially you either take all of those choices, delete your own shebet, you put your own choices because that's what the choice that felt right to you. Nope, not important. We have to have this and this and this and this and this and this and this.
Ridiculous. Outrageous.
Or you give us $10, you can play the multiplayer for a few rounds. That's essentially what they're doing. I mean, I understand what it is they want to. They want to take power away from GameStop. GameStop is selling used games, and people are selling used games on Amazon because they, we've played the game, now we want to sell them, and GameStop is basically doing it for profit. It doesn't go to BioWare or EA, which is a problem, but that's GameStop's business. We have to stop buying used games from GameStop if we want that to stop happening.
I don't think I agree with the point. I mean, on the perspective of the big companies on the issue. I mean, people buy used chairs and used tables and used beds and used wardrobes, whatever it is used microphones, computers, mouses, anything you want. Even used pets in a way. Somebody had a pet. Oh, I have to sell it. Okay, you just buy it, no problem.
Imagine if car companies did that. Oh, you're buying a used car. Well, you want wheels, don't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, what the hell? I mean, none of your business what I'm buying. If you don't provide me with a high quality product for a reasonable price for it, I will find a way to buy it cheaper. Preferably from someone who already used the game and will sell it for me again cheaper. And the thing is that the question here is not why GameStop does such an unlawful business. Everybody does that. Stop kidding yourself with that. I mean, eBay and Amazon live off of that. I mean, on Amazon, there's so many people selling used stuff and nobody suffers from it. Everybody's fine, okay? And this cries and, this roar, oh my God, there's no future for the gaming industry. There's so many used copies. Well, maybe in the first place, you should have provided a better quality content instead of crying right now that people do not buy the original. Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but I don't necessarily agree with them. I'll personally never buy a used game from GameStop, mainly because I don't want to support their way of doing business. But I can see why the developers are scared of them. But as with most things they're scared of, it's not really an issue.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I feel the same way, essentially. I just feel that it's a cheap defense, especially from side of companies that apply unlawful strategies. I mean, really unjust strategies, right? Like pay for DLC or no good ending for you. I mean, what the hell? You're serious? Or the developer, Capcom, I think, the developer of what was it? The Street Fighter X. Of what? I don't remember the name of the game. Anyway, the fighting game. The thing is that what did they do? They're like, oh, you know what? We have a DLC on the disc. Oh yeah, you like that? You like that, boy, don't you? You have to pay for it. Additionally. I mean, we already developed it, but it didn't make it in a final game. I mean, it's done. It's a DLC.
Yeah.
Downloadable content.
Yeah, well, to be fair and to defend some game developers to an extent, some people are just in there for the money. But for instance, before a game gets shipped, a few weeks, even up to a few months before the game's released, they have to ship it. So get it play tested and to get it distributed all over the country, on all of several countries, depending on the size of the game company. So that's several weeks, several months where the production team has nothing to do while they're waiting for the game to get shipped. And in that downtime, they can work on DLC, which can be shipped later on at a later date.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Which is essentially what they did with the Day 1 DLC from Mass Effect, which caused a huge uproar because, they're just milking us for money now. Damn you, EA! When it basically there was a lot of downtime on the BioWare offices because they had shipped the game, they were just rolling their thumbs, paying the production team to do nothing. This is essentially why they wait. So they waited on the DLC that they wanted to ship with the game, while they waited for the game to be finished play testing and distribution, essentially.
I see your point, but the thing is that it's insulting. Okay, for a consumer, I will represent consumers here, and I will never represent any company out there. I will always represent the consumers, and I want to say that it's insulting when I go ahead and let's say on Steam, right, and I see a new game. Oh my God, a new game, so exciting! And I look down and it's like, Day 1 DLC. Oh, there's a unique mission. Pay additional $10 to enjoy it. And I'm like, what? You people are nuts or something? I mean, if you want to make money so much off of a DLC and you had so much downtime that you made a DLC, else make it bigger and release it later, else do not do it like this. I mean, it's insulting for the consumer at the end. I mean, you pre-order the game, you get the game, and there's like Day 1 DLC, and you're like, what the hell, people? I paid you so much money to get the game, and you demand additional money from me just so I can play additional content that else you should have released for free or included it in a bigger expansion pack. I mean, look at developers of the Skyrim, Bethesda Softworks. What are they doing right now? Oh yes, they're making a DLC, but not DLC like, oh, we made a couple of new hats, buy them for €2. No, they're making a huge expansion pack, okay? And that's the difference. Look at the StarCraft 2 developers, Blizzard Entertainment. What are they doing right now? Oh yes, Heart of the Swarm for StarCraft 2. And what do you think? It's a huge expansion with a lot of units, with a brand new chapter in the campaign, which is, again, look, it's not comparable, alright? Getting a lot of money for one mission is ridiculous, okay? Selling a quality product, no one will ever have a problem with that.
Yeah, but the thing you're talking about there, that's basically an entire game shipped as an expansion pack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's something I'm fine paying with, but to play the devil's advocate, I can see why maybe someone at BioWare said, "Oh, we really want this character, we really want this mission," and EA said, "But we have to ship the game, so the game is going out now." Essentially, they kept working on the DLC just for those who wanted. Sadly, it was a Prothean squad mate. They've been hyped up from the first game with what they looked like and what the culture was like, and then that's the DLC character. That's really what got the people's nerves.
Then why don't just release this product for free and then continue working on a DLC? Since you wanted to release it so much and you didn't get on time, that's what's happening with Diablo 3. Remember 20 minutes ago, we were bashing on Diablo 3. Now, Diablo 3, the developers of Diablo 3, they said openly that they will cut out the PvP, and they said we will add PvP next major patch down the road, okay? That's different. They're not saying, oh guys, you know what? Oh, we don't have enough time. We're not going to be adding PvP. Sorry, guys. But several months later, if you pay additional $20, you're getting a brand new PvP arenas and PvP as such. I mean, what is this? It's just ridiculous. I mean, everyone would get insulted, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but someone has to pay for the for the production team. They are working and putting a lot of man hours into getting the DLC to work and recording all of the dialogue for the guy who's doing the voice for the character. He has to record dialogue from all over the game, and in a huge game like Mass Effect, which is like a 40-hour experience, that's a lot of dialogue. Basically a short novel worth of dialogue of just one guy talking. He has to get paid for that, so I can see why they want to charge us for it, even though I will agree that I would prefer to have it for free or at a much lower price.
Yeah, well, what you're saying is I agree with you, but the specific situation you described does not imply that. I mean, you said that they are kind of late, right? They're running late, and so they release the game right now, and they have one additional month of working, and so they work. I don't think that they necessarily recorded these dialogues during this month. I think it was leftovers which they did not implement. That's how it usually is. That's how it works. They don't record dialogues the last moment. They're like, oh my god, guys, we have these quests and the dialogues are not ready. Come on, you go ahead and record the dialogues. We need you immediately. Like, but I'm a sound director. I don't have words. Talk. Shut up and talk.
Yes, I do agree with you. Just playing the devil's advocate. But again, benefit that it is a lot of coding to get everything to work out and make sure it doesn't glitch out. Even though every game has glitches that will have to be fixed later, but making sure that it glitches as the least amount as all possible.
Yeah, it's always the end aim for the company. Again, it provides a better opinion about the company. Like, oh look, they are responsible. They fixed all the bugs in the game. Whereas in my experience with some Russian companies, they would just release the content. They would hype it up, release, and they would be like releasing 2 patches, which fix absolutely nothing, and they would be like, oh, you know what? Enough. They would just never work on this product, literally never again, right? And then they would release the new game, which would be like the same name, but number 2. And they would do the same thing, and you'd feel like, you know what, guys? Honestly, fuck you. I don't want to pay for this content anymore. I know you're not gonna patch anything, and you're just in for the money. You have not even the slightest decency, and I do not want to support you. That's just making a bad name for yourself. I mean, don't you think? I mean, if you're treating your customers like this, they're not gonna come back to you. That's what it is, and which means in the long run, less money. Very simple.
Yeah, the best kind of advertisement you can get is basically an active fan base or an active fan community. For instance, if there's a new series going on and there are people who like it, they will talk about it. They will talk to their friends about it. They will go to Tumblr or Reddit or wherever and talk about it, discuss everything about the series, the movie, the game, whatever, and it'll sell more. Because there's an active fan base. And basically, when you have something like this where you don't fix anything, then you have to rely on new customers each time who are not in the know about the company. So
yeah, and eventually exactly. I agree with you. And exactly, eventually you're going to run out of these customers and you're going to collapse, whether you want it or not. Okay, so we're just gonna end up at this point, concluding this first episode of QuickSaveFM podcast here with double mic attack. Here with me, I had the Coffeeholic with his channel on YouTube, which, as I said, I will provide the annotation right here and the the link in the description. Go ahead and check his channel. He has awesome content about Mass Effect 3, and of course, subscribe if you would like to support his work and get notified when his content becomes available.
Yeah, it was a pleasure talking with you and discussing all these very interesting things about games. I feel that most people, they're content with sitting there and consume without actually talking about the issues at hand and actually talking about DRM or talking about what gets caused from a game. It's a very interesting discussion, and it's really how do you go about dealing with it as a consumer?
I agree with you. I had a blast talking to you about these things, and I'm sure our listeners I hope they will like it. And of course, please leave your comments on your questions for the next episode. We would like to make it a recurring series if it will be possible. Go ahead and leave your questions, and we will go ahead and answer them in the next episode of the QuickSaveFM podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Have the greatest day, and bye-bye.
See ya.